to our class of 2025 college planning workshop where we are going to talk about life after high school, whether that's LHS or VHHS. Um, we are recording this session and we will be emailing the recording out to all junior and sophomore families once the recording becomes available. And we'll also link the slideshow. So if we're rattling through something or if we reference that something is linked in the slideshow, just know that you will receive that, both students and parents of sophomores and juniors. So I am Becky Bolito. I'm the post-secondary counselor at Vernon Hills High School.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Murphy. I'm the post-secondary counselor at Libertyville. Thanks for joining us.
All right, and just to give you a little preview of what we have in store tonight, we are going to cover a wide variety, and we're going to do our best to keep this under an hour. And just know that this is our introduction to post-secondary planning. And so this is just the start of the information we'll be sending you. And if you have questions, we're always available to you. We're also going to be covering other resources and research that you can look at outside of the CRC. We'll talk a little bit about testing and talk about things that you could be doing second semester and over the summer to prepare for next fall when students really start their application process officially. We'll also cover some upcoming programs, and in the midst of all of that, our Vernon Hills High School CRC assistant, Nicole Carson, Mrs. Carson, is going to be monitoring the Q&A that is available to you participants. And so if you want to ask a question, throw it in the Q&A, and either Mrs. Carson will answer it like over the computer and type a response, which then everyone will see, or she'll flag it and we'll cover it at the end of our presentation. So let's get started here. All right.
Here we go, right into fit. So we start with a quote that we think really sums up kind of the energy around that college match. I like to read this as we start. College is a match to be made, not a prize to be won. All too often, students and parents are romanced by a name rather than looking for the best matches. In the end, the best fit should be what the student determines, and there should be several fits, not just one. And I think Ms. Polito and I would both argue that not only should there be several fits, but there are several fits. So we hope that we're starting tonight maybe with a bit of a deep breath around the fact that your student or students that are logging in right now are watching this at a different time. There are many wonderful landing spots for you after graduation. We're here to help you find them. You have time to find them. And we're just excited about helping you through the process. I do highlight too, as we flip to the next slide, that best fit might not be the fit that your older brother or sister had. And it might not be the same match as your best friend going through the process. So trusting yourself, we're going to circle back to that theme a lot. Trusting yourself, discussions with self, family, etc., all important factors in this process. So as we keep going with what makes a good fit, we have kind of a graphic for you as well as several factors. That academic fit, the social fit, and the financial fit, ideally coming together for to find that place where your students, feet are your feet are on campus, you're happy, your brain, you're stimulated, and that you're settled, right? That gut instinct is happy with that final decision. So when we talk about the financial aspect, financial attainability is kind of a tricky phrase in college admissions these days when you look at some of the sticker prices of college. But logging in tonight is a wonderful kickstart into that discussion with your family around not only cost and perhaps what a family can support or resources that are or are not available to a student, which either path, either answer is empowering. So we want to reinforce that the more knowledge a student has around personal responsibility, family support, etc., the quicker and the smoother that list can be built around financial fit. We like to think about not only the cost of a program, but also outcomes. And so thinking about perhaps if you have an idea of what you want to do, what will that starting salary be? And what then, sometimes that can relate back to what cost matches the goals related to that college fit. Program of study, this could mean something as simple as the major, the program, the interest area your student has, but it can also relate to co-op programs. Am I going to get to work and make some money in the field of interest I have at the campus I choose? Is there research available to me? And if there is, will I be working with a professor? Will I be able to do this as a freshman or sophomore? How do those programs work? How would my studies look at this institution? That flows right into level of rigor, the expectations of that campus, the fellow student body, and expectation around me as a student. How many of my classes will be taught by a professor? What will those class sizes be like? Is attendance super important? All of those factors related to those day-to-day in the class. And then kind of go back to that vibe word, the word of, the idea of what is the vibe? Does it feel like home? Is it a comfortable place for me? And that encompasses so many things. What's the food like? What is the surrounding area like? Do I feel comfy in an urban area, a more suburban area, etc.? And lastly on this list, but definitely not least in matters of importance, is does the campus that I'm considering value me? And that includes, have I earned, perhaps if they're available, have I earned a merit scholarship? Have they celebrated my acceptance with some kind of financial award? Is there a mutual excitement around the decision, the acceptance, the option that I've created for myself? And I would even go so far as I'm making my decision, are my questions being answered in a timely and caring manner? Every interaction you have with your potential campuses is a measure of how you'll be cared for and supported as a student. So pay attention to that, trust those instincts, and certainly ask all of your questions. They all matter, and this feels like and certainly is a very important decision. All right, I think we're ready for the next slide. Getting into a little more detail around these factors to consider. We're circling back to how do we even evaluate costs? And again, this is a big factor. I will go back to starting with that family conversation around transparent information. So whether that means I talked to a family a couple weeks ago, and I have permission to share this story, but the family has had a conversation with their student around what they're willing to support, X dollar amount, and that dollar amount changes according to the grade point average that the student maintains to and through their college career. So the family has had kind of an in-depth discussion around this is what's supported at X level of grade outcomes, and then if grades would change, the student financial responsibility would grow. It's kind of an interesting, very personalized, and very factual way of looking at that cost. And it also is helping the student as they determine which campus to choose, how much they have to contribute because their percentage changes according to that sticker price for them. So how do we look at cost though? Two phrases I want every family to remember would be net price calculator. This is a process that if you have a list of 10 schools, potential schools, your student has them or you have them in mind, you can literally Google school name, net price calculator, and every college in the country is required to have a net price calculator for you to calculate an estimated cost of attendance for your student. This is going to be based on different criteria. So while every college is required to have this tool, they can vary in the depth of the degree of questions that they ask and how much information they gather. So some of those estimates could be more accurate or more detailed than others. When you're doing these net price calculators, I like to recommend that families don't do 10 at a time, because doing one or two honestly can feel like a lot, and you're talking about big numbers. So I wouldn't do 10 at a time, and I probably wouldn't be processing net price calculators after a tough, or trying, or tiring workday, family event, etc. So kind of in good spirits, checking 2 or 3 off at a time, making some notes. And then from that point, also exploring, I've talked about net price calculator. The other term I want you to remember tonight is cost of attendance. So that's going to be another posted figure to every school's website. And if it's hard to find, let me know, because that can just be annoying, because it should be transparent and able to find. But cost of attendance is a factor that schools are supposed to post to their financial aid pages. And it details tuition, fees, additional expenses. That could mean transportation home, room and board, etc. So you're going to get that entire sticker price in one spot. So those net price calculator, cost of attendance, 2 big facts and phrases to know. And again, trying to avoid surprises. So if and as you haven't done these 2 steps by the time your student has applied to their schools, please do so. Again, Mrs. Polito and I, every year we meet with a student who maybe applied to 6 or 7 schools, feeling confident, secure, excited. And then March, April comes, financial aid packages are out. All 6 or 7 schools might be out of reach financially. It's a really tough spot to be in, and it's avoidable. So again, looking at that cost factor to help hone and build that list is important. I'm trying to go fast. It's so much info. We could do all cost all night. Talking about major, remember that undecided is okay, right? 30% of students go to school undecided, and then I think the stat is 30% or more change their major once they are even in school. So undecided is absolutely an okay position to be in most cases. Don't be scared of still being exploratory. I think most of us on the call could probably consider ourselves exploratory still. The key to that is that you are applying to schools that offer something in the various fields of interest. So don't apply to a liberal arts school with no business program if you might be really interested in business but not quite sure. There's ways around or other majors that can get you in that boardroom or on that trading floor. But you obviously want to be applying to schools that will meet your interests related to major and academic interests. Size. Do you want to be having dinner with your professor at least once before you graduate, maybe at a smaller college campus? Do you want to certainly have that massive Saturday game day vibe with 30,000 of your best friends and greatest cheerleaders? Explore. Do you want something in the middle? Maybe you don't care about football and you want a mid-sized school that loves basketball. Maybe you want a school that's close enough to a city, but doesn't have cross streets of that urban feel right in the middle of it. So kind of thinking about the size, the student body, and the access that you have. I mentioned location. I'm getting into like urban, rural, suburban kind of settings. Location is often a spot that we will go to first when talking with the student, because I have a map of the US in my office. So when students are talking about wanting a school that has a huge student body or a massive Greek life, we can start there. But then my next question is going to be like, where do you know you might not want to be, or where do you know what's an area of the US that you really, really like? And the location piece could be, I want to be within 5 hours of Libertyville or Vernon Hills. That's a huge list in itself, but it's also an incredible way to shrink the 3,500 options out there. So just thinking about that, and I don't think it ever hurts to have a school close to home on that list, just as even if it's a backup. Never hurts to have an option where when you get that first cold or don't feel so well after being away from home, and mom's still able to kind of drive and deliver some chicken noodle soup. Like, not a bad thing to consider. Academic programs. This can relate to support programs. Do you learn differently? Do you need additional supports or unique supports? How is that campus or each campus you're considering going to support you to and through those needs? Do you want to have a double major? Do you want to have a major and a minor? that might be in very unrelated fields, but is supported. Do you want to study abroad? That can be a massive experience for any college student. So how are those programs supported, encouraged? And are you interested in an honors program? Are you interested in a living learning community? Are you interested in some of these specialized or unique programs that can kind of shrink a school, specialize a school, specialize a program for you? So kind of considering all of those pieces as you are building this list. I get to take a breath. Ooh.
Okay. And then 4 other things that you should keep in consideration when starting this college search process. One is admission factors. And what do we mean by that? I refer to this as being like, do you have the classes necessary to be admitted to the school? A lot of colleges will put right on their website like how many years of English they're looking for, how many years of science they're looking for. And so you can find that and know that at LHS and VHHS, your counselors, as you've been choosing your courses from year to year, they've been keeping in mind that you need to be admissible to four-year school. So that is something that they've been tracking. But if they're the other piece with admission is, what does the profile look like of a student who is admitted? Okay, where do their grades lie? Do they share a test score range with you on the website? And just know where you fall in relation to the admission standards for the colleges on your lists. For student body, a lot of times students that I've worked with have been looking for a diverse student body, whether that's ethnically or geographically. You know, they want people from all over the world, and they also look at, you know, is their faith represented? Would they have a way to practice their faith on campus? I've had Jewish students, look to see if there's a Hillel on campus. It's anything that like the student body is going to make you feel comfortable, more comfortable. For social atmosphere, this is referring to what do kids do outside of class time. Obviously, you're going to college, pursuing furthering your education, but there's a lot more to the college experience than just sitting in class. And so it's good to research what are kids doing outside of class time, and whether that's an extracurricular or club that is offered through the college, or if you, for example, pick a college that's next to a mountain, are kids skiing on the weekends? That's not something that every place offers. So keep that in mind also. And then kind of also with extracurriculars leading into that, we have a lot of students who are exploring the option of being a student athlete in college. And so seeing if your sport is offered at a college is one way to narrow down that list. Or maybe you're just thinking, what's intramural life look like on this campus? Or do they have a club sport? Every college tour that I've been on has always referenced the fact that if a college doesn't have a club or organization that you're looking for, that they will tell you exactly what you need to do to start that on your own. And it's usually not that much that you have to do. They want students involved on campus, and they want you to feel connected with other students and staff, etc. Okay. So one thing remains true for every list. Every list should have a foundation school, and sometimes this is referred to as a safety school. And safety can sometimes have like a negative connotation. It can seem like it's less than any other college, and that's just not how we choose to look at a foundation school. This is simply saying that you have a school on your list where you can be admitted, right? Where your grades, test scores, classwork all line up. that you can feel comfortable with financially based on maybe the net price calculator and conversations with your family. And then finally, that you would be happy there. Okay. So for some students, this can be like a really easy one to know. A lot of students at both high schools have CLC as an option in their back pocket. It's offers a lot to students at a very affordable cost. This can also be a harder, like for some students, they have a hard time finding a school they're excited about that's a foundation school, but both Ms. Murphy and I will have those conversations. We want you to be hopeful and happy with any school that you would have on your list. Our hope is that you would not be applying to a school if you would dread attending that school. And there's lots of colleges out there. And so there's lots of options and lots of schools that would love to have you on their campus. Okay. So when we talk about a list, it's not an exact science, right? But students and families all the time want to know, like, what's a reasonable list look like? And I typically say, 1 to 9 schools. And once you get up creeping up towards 9, like that's a lot of schools to have on an application list. That's a lot of work that you will be doing as a senior in the fall applying to those schools. You can see here the average number of applications for LHS seniors was around 7, BHHS was around 6. So you will hear stories in the media or maybe in the halls of kids who are applying to, 20 colleges. Know that that is not the norm. And if you think you need to apply to that many schools, Ms. Murphy and I would love to talk you through that just to make sure that you know what you're getting into with that many applications. Every list needs to have, like we just talked about, a foundation school. It could have several probable schools, right? Where I would refer to those schools like a target school, right? You have everything that's like lining up, but maybe, you're not in the top 5% of admissible students. And then it can include reach schools, but it doesn't have to. Like we have students every year that fall in love with a college. They know they would be admissible to that school, and they've talked to the family about the cost. And I every year have kids that apply to maybe just one school or 3 schools, and just know that it doesn't have to be the longest list. You right now are in your research stage, and so you're going to be developing a list of schools that like might be of interest to you. But the goal is going to be that as we creep closer to the end of junior year, head into the summer, that you're narrowing that down to a manageable list of schools. And like we said, probably between 1 and 9 would be our ideal. Okay, we have a little activity for everyone here. We'll go through this. And so a lot of times students hear things about colleges, and adults too, right? We hear different things about colleges, and it's easy for our assumptions to uh, change the way that we view colleges. And so we're going to go through this real quick activity here of 4 different colleges. And I want you just to keep an open mind, and without knowing what college we're talking about, at the end, we're going to ask you to vote in a poll to see which school would be the best fit for you based on what limited info we're providing you. So this slide here has a few pictures of school number 1. You can see there's some green space, looks like a little quad area on the left-hand picture. Looks like a pretty nice city, Barnes and Noble right there at the top. And let's read some facts about school number 1. So it's a private university in a city, has about 15,000 students. The animation major at the school is ranked 4th in the US. Fine arts majors are competitive and are nationally regarded. There are over 300 academic programs, and they are all combined with a core liberal arts curriculum. They operate on the quarter system, not the semester system. And they offer some accelerated programs in medicine, like physician's assistant, pharmacy, physical therapy, and others. And the little hint is it's not too far from home. All right. And then school number 2, you can see there's a ski lift. On the right hand side, lots of snow. On the left, you can see like the beautiful fall colors and a little glimpse of campus. And then here's some facts about this school. So this is a public school of about 7,000 students. The average class size here is going to be 25 to 30 students, and it's a STEM focused college. It's number 2 in colleges where grads make 6 figures. They have very smart students attending there. The average GPA of incoming freshmen is a 3.8. They do some really cool research projects, including launching nanosatellites into space, working on prosthetics for amputees, and AI for kids. And then as like a little bonus, snowboarding is a PE class option.
All right, moving on to school 3. You can see a beautiful fallish day with happy students walking around the campus, and then just kind of that beautiful drone shot of the green space and picturesque buildings, etc., as well as what looks like a pretty great dining hall setting. This campus is a private college with about 1,000 students. Students take one class at a time with intense academic rigor. It's a liberal arts school, but it offers engineering, business, and education. Diverse student body, geographically and ethnically. 52% of students study off campus, with recent courses taking place in New Zealand, Italy, India, and Shanghai. The dance major, and it offers a dance major and BFA in musical theater. You get a small town setting with major college towns nearby with this campus. And then our final option, again, you've got what looks like a Capitol building. I'm not going to guess or try to give anything away. Some more beautiful fall colors, and then another happy student scene on campus. This campus is public with 22,000 students, Division I athletics, home to one of the most acclaimed medical centers in the United States. It has been ranked number 1, the number 1 public university for writing in the disciplines. It is certainly a college town, thrives with college students in that relationship. 56% of students come from in-state and 27% from Illinois. Some notable alumni: Tom Brokaw, Ashton Kutcher, W.P. Kinsella, Tennessee Williams, and John Irving. So we are going to, dun.
All right, let me launch this poll. We'll give you
poll before we give you the names. I almost gave it away.
So go ahead and choose which college off of that limited information we gave you. This is just an exercise in keeping an open mind. Do you think you would gravitate to or say fits you best today?
I feel like cheering for number 3. All right, yes.
Okay, let's see here. All right, 5 seconds left. Get your votes in. All right. All right, those are our results. You can see, oh, college 3 did end up getting some votes right there at the end. You can see that it was actually pretty close between the other 3. College 1 and 4 were 1 vote apart. So let's go over what these schools what these schools were. Let's see. All right, so number one is DePaul University. Okay, very close to home. Number two is Michigan Tech, which is way up there in Michigan, hence all of the pictures of snow.
Number three was Cornell College in Iowa, about 4 hours west in Mount Vernon, Iowa. And number four is the University of Iowa, which is a very, very happy landing for lots of our students. So the poll kind of matches. Interesting. All right, so we had a little fun. So now we're going to dive into testing. So we'll take another deep breath. But just some facts, I think. Let's see. Ms. Polito, can you click for the graph? There we go. So just some quick facts about testing. We had great turnout this year with the junior class and the PSAT and MSQT back in October. Those scores are available. You all took that on your Chromebooks. So it was an extra special, extra valuable practice for the upcoming SAT, which will also be will be electronic. But your scores are available if you haven't seen them yet through your College Board account. Schools do not keep track of College Board logins. So just a quick reminder, if you have any issues with that, you do have to go through College Board to get that information. But we can help with that process if needed, but those scores are there. You will take juniors, the state required SAT on Monday, April 15th. So you'll be getting more information from school admin on that around that. But just a couple things to refresh, remind, or even just let you know. That test date again is April 15th. It is a graduation requirement for you to take the test on that day. If you don't take it, there will be a makeup. So even if you have taken the SAT or plan to take it on another Saturday date, that score, that sitting does not count for what the state of Illinois requires students to complete. So, and you are auto-registered for that April test by the school. So you do not have to register. There's no payment. The school requires you to take it. The state requires you to take it. So all of that is covered. And if you're curious, Illinois is one of few states that use an official college admissions test as part of our school report card and kind of evaluation tools for how schools are doing in the state of Illinois. So that is the fact around that. We will highlight, you've been getting some information when we talk about testing this Saturday for the ACT. There is a free practice opportunity that is being offered through Compass Prep. And again, we have a tentative start time for 9 a.m. to try to help you schedule your day, but the ACT practice is taking place Saturday, December 9th. You've gotten that info a couple times through a couple emails. It's in our Google Classrooms. Email each of us if you have questions or haven't received those links, and of course, we will make sure you get that. And then the SAT practice related to this free opportunity actually rolls through the end of March. So you can choose when you do that. And again, that will be from home. So both of these practices are free. And you can be at home in your comfy clothes, taking this and getting an idea of what that score is going to look like, what those tests feel like. Keep in mind the SAT that you are taking in the spring, again, will be electronic. The ACT and shorter. The ACT is still paper and pencil and will be a little bit of a longer test in comparison to the SAT. There is zero preference out there from college admissions offices. So do not, if you don't like the pace of one or the other, if you don't like having a science section on the ACT, or if you love having a science section on the ACT, try them both and then lean into the one that feels best for you according to your skill set, your energy around timing of questions, etc. Because again, the scores you send, there is no school out there that says we only want this test or this test. And to be honest, testing and your scores remain a factor in admissions, but there is, we are not seeing a massive uptick in campuses returning to a required setting for the test. Last year, this admission cycle, Purdue's a popular school with both of our campuses. They have requested scores again that are required. University of Tennessee, some university state publics in Tennessee, Florida, Georgia. But you will not see Illinois publics requiring a test score. And again, Ms. Belito, correct me, but I don't expect in the next 6 or 7 months to see a barrage of schools come out and say, by the way, we have to have scores. So I just want to keep the energy around testing. It's a factor. It can support your application. You can definitely get into a variety of schools of every kind with or without a test score as part of your application. And then we've listed a few extra reminders around making sure you're checking college websites. Fairtest.org is a resource for checking to see who requires, how they want them. Another thing we do like to highlight when you do take either test, we do not necessarily recommend that you put in college codes, allowing schools to automatically get those scores. We really want to remind students that test scores, they're your property, and and so personally, I'd want to know how I did before my mom, my dad, or certainly a stranger at a college admissions office sees how I did. So take the reins on that, decide what you want to do, but there's no rule that says you have to send scores upon registration, even though you're asked. You can skip it. And then practice and test prep is all available at no cost. College Board and ACT both offer free test prep through their respective websites. College Board, I would say, is a little more robust in the fact that they're partnered with Khan Academy. There's a lot more support and free practice materials available through their site, but the ACT does offer an option to get a practice test and several practice questions to get a sense of what's coming on those tests. And then I will go back to my old school mom strategy of, reading is test prep. So when you have free time, reading a short story, reading an article of interest, and then maybe telling your mom about it, your little sister about it, taking some time to even just think about main ideas, that's all reading comprehension. And that's a lot of what these tests are. So there's lots of prep happening in your life every day in school. Like Ms. Belito said, our curriculum is certainly supporting success on these assessments. And no one watching, no one in the class of 2025 should lose sleep or have their stress meter go up around SAT and ACT. We don't want that, and it's just not. It doesn't need to be part of that reality. What did I miss?
I think you covered it. I think, like, honestly, one of the things to come out of the pandemic in terms of college admissions is the growth of the test optional movement, and it's been very nice to see how for some students that just changes their whole perspective on the college search process, because they realize they have a little more power in and control in the process, and that there are lots of colleges out there that if you are naturally just not a great test taker, you are not alone, and that's very common, and this is why colleges aren't necessarily requiring it anymore. So it is something that obviously induces stress, student stress, parent stress, but we see every year how it works out for kids, and that there are options for kids with all different test scores, and that includes like scholarship money. For most schools that don't require a test score for admission, they don't require a test score for scholarship money. So I know that's like a hot topic always amongst juniors. So I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on that. This slide here is just a massive list of different resources that we kind of curated for our families. Right at the top here are some of the things that at the school level we provide. And then we link to all of these other resources. And um, the college scorecard and college navigator sites are both really good sites with data and different types of information. So the scorecard, you could go and see, what's the average graduation rate of graduates from or of a college, and then what are graduates earning after they graduate from a certain college. Whereas like College Navigator is going to give you some more college admission stats. So I would just encourage students to knowledge is power. And I think sometimes knowledge and having access to resources, like the hope is that it brings their anxiety levels down. And so we just wanted to provide this. The UIUC Major Explorer is good for all students. It's not just built for students who intend to apply to University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. It is pretty simple, which is nice. And you can take a personality quiz and then get suggestions for different majors. You can find out what majors, what careers certain majors lead to, and learn just more about every major in general. So the Marquette Major Quiz, another like resource, again, not just limited to Marquette students, anyone that's just thinking about life after high school and exploring, which is most students at this point, are not set in their path. Okay, so let's talk about second semester. So we're finishing up first semester, and I know finals are coming up later this month. And I think right now, the most important thing that all juniors can be doing is just focusing on their classwork and finishing up the semester strong, doing whatever it is that you need to do to end the semester on a successful note for you. Then second semester, things start picking up in terms of looking to senior year. You will begin registering for your courses with your counselor, and at both Libertyville and Vernon Hills, juniors meet individually with the counselors to pick out their coursework for senior year. And it's really important that you go into those meetings prepared, knowing which classes you need to take for college admissions. And if you have specific colleges you're looking at, you need to do that work ahead of time for registration. For example, the University of California school, so UC schools, Cal State schools, they require that the high school students have a 1 year fine arts requirement. And so that's often something when students are thinking of going out west, that maybe they'll throw into their schedule senior year if it hasn't been something that they've pursued earlier in their high school career. World language is like the question I think I get the most about, whether it's at my job or if it's at my kids' sporting events. Everyone wants some information about world language and what colleges expect. And it's just the answer is it depends. Some colleges don't need students in high school to take any world language, but to give students the most options, we say, try and get through 2 years, and that's going to meet a lot of the requirements. But the more you can take and get, decent grades in and not be stressed, the more years you can take of that language, the more um, options you will have, or the more it has the potential to free you up from having to take world language at the college level. We always have lots and lots of students apply to University of Illinois, and they have a policy where high school students are required for admission to have 2 years of high school language. And so that would mean any through the level. So if freshman year you took Spanish 2, that is what a college would regard as 2 years of Spanish. But at University of Illinois, a lot of their majors, in order to graduate, you have to have 4 years. So whether you do 2 years at the high school and 2 years in college or 4 years in high school, like it can free you up from having to take those courses in college if that's not something you're looking to do. You're going to want to just talk about a testing timeline and plot out. We are not telling students and we are not proponents of like take the test as much as possible. Like we think, taking it 2 to 3 times is not like that unusual, but it can get to be overkill and students just aren't seeing a lot of change in their scores after a certain point. So kind of map out when it makes sense for you as students to take those tests, knowing that in April you'll take the SAT at Vernon Hills. Regardless, you have to. College visits are one of the most helpful ways to get information about a college or what you're looking for in a college. And so it's also something that can be very difficult to coordinate with parents' work schedules, family schedules. And so I would encourage families to start thinking about, when would it be possible to get on campus somewhere? And if it's just not going to be possible, students, there's tons of virtual tours out there now. Every college really ramped up those offerings when their campuses were closed during COVID. But, you know, all an official college visit requires, in terms of like getting that started, is jumping on a college's website, and somewhere on their website, they're going to talk about how to visit and probably have a calendar where you can find a date and time that works for you. And I would just also add that if you're not going to be able to take the time to go to a place that's, 3 hours one way, it would find a local place, that you can take your student to, or students that you can go with a friend, because you get a feel for that campus. And even though you might not like that particular campus, there might be things about it that you like or things about it that you hate, which can be equally as helpful in getting you one step closer to refining your list. And then last fall, there was the CLC College Fair, where I know Miss Murphy and I saw a bunch of students walking around talking to the college admission reps. The big one that is going to be happening second semester is on April 6th, and that is going to be at Moraine Valley College. Is that correct, Miss Murphy? Okay. And so if you haven't had a chance to make it to a college fair, if you want to learn more about other colleges, this would be a good one to maybe mark down on your calendar and get a chance to talk to all these different colleges that are in the same place on April 6th.
All right, some more second semester tips. I think I saw a question too about dates for course selection, and I believe both schools will be sending information out in the next week to students and families. Juniors will be meeting with counselors by mid-January. And Ms. Polito, I think we're on a real similar timeline. So I think families should be looking for emails, and counselors have been very busy putting materials together to break all that down. But you'll have that info before break, and then when we return, juniors are the priority for those meetings.
Yeah. And I believe it's the same way at Libertyville, where students have like it's on them to make the appointments. And so if they want to have that appointment early in February, they just need to, get on their counselor's schedule early. And yeah, so everything is ramping up towards that right now. So a bunch of information will be coming home, but nothing has been like released officially yet.
So back to second semester tips. Thinking about requesting a teacher recommendation if you need one. You may not know that yet. So this webinar, this tonight, is more about maybe thinking about teachers that you are connecting with, kind of showing your best self as a student. Because remember, these teacher recommendations, the value of these letters is how a teacher can describe you as a student, because the reader is really excited to get a sense of who you are in the classroom and how you'll fit in the classes on their campus. So thinking about a teacher or two, if absolutely needed, that you would talk to about writing that letter of rec that is required for a school or several schools on that eventual list you build. We will both be putting out more information about the steps related to this. A lot of students come back in the fall and ask in August. Teachers expect these requests to come through maybe by late spring. But the big key is giving teachers at least 3 weeks notice to write a quality letter by your deadline. And then another note would be, typically these are going to be requested of teachers in core classes. So that's going to be math, English, social studies, science, world language, and ideally from junior year. There's always exceptions. So talk to us, talk to your counselor about that. But just we're trying to plant the seed of, who would I ask today if I needed a teacher to talk about me and my strengths in the classroom? Who comes to mind, right? Keep track of your activities, your awards, your experiences. Parents on this call, trusted adults on this call, you are often a just golden resource related to this, because you remember things that your student did freshman year that maybe they don't, because they're just busy being amazing. So this could be a really nice discussion piece where the student shares what they've put together as far as activities they've been involved in, awards or honors they've received, various experiences that they've had through high school. And then you might discuss how perhaps they can remember to add X, Y, or Z. One thing that I do see students ignore a lot on their activity list is a part-time job. And I just have to bring that up every year, because part-time jobs are so celebrated by admissions readers. Maintaining a job while you're doing well in school, while you're participating in a club or activity or sport, you're demonstrating so much time management, organization, et cetera, et cetera. So don't forget about just all the ways that you spend your time outside of the classroom, sleeping and eating. Your students are doing amazing things. And related to that, maybe get a jump start thinking about what your summer looks like. That might be travel, it might be work, it might be a combination, it might be taking class, it might be, reading the works of Stephen King or something, relate something personal but interesting to you, and meaningful. So I think I want students to take away from this part to be, how will I answer the question of how did you spend your summer before senior year? And you want something meaningful to be in that answer. And then continuing to narrow your college choices through research, campus visits, like Ms. Polito said, virtual or in person, talks with, your counselor, meeting with your post-secondary counselor, little shout out for us, friends, parents, teachers, etc. And I do like to remind students and parents that if your student knows they're going to apply to 2 schools in New York and 2 schools in California, if they know that and that's part of their list, that's wonderful. And you don't have to get to both coasts by September 1. And you definitely can visit schools once you've been admitted, and you have that amazing extra layer of, I have a place here and I wasn't stressed by travel or feeling like I had to check all these trips off. So college visits are meaningful. It's going to be challenging to check them all off by the time you apply, and you don't have to. And then adding at least 3 campuses to your consideration list by the end of the year. So part of the programming both of our offices will be running this spring is supporting your students through this process. But summer can be a really meaningful, productive time in organizing yourself, getting a jump start on some of the possible application steps. So the more you know and the more confident you feel with action steps and organization heading out of junior year, the smoother your summer and certainly your fall are going to be. It's a tougher fall when a senior comes into our offices saying, I need to build a list. And you don't have to do that. There are tools and time and supports in place to help you have a wonderful list going by the time you walk out of here in May. All right, next slide. Speaking of that, we've got some reminders from each school. So plugging a few things coming up. I was able last month to visit U.S. history classes. So again, you'll get these slides and anything underlined is linked, just encouraging students to review or remember the content from those classroom visits. We've mentioned the practice ACT and SAT. Next Thursday, we'll be hosting a virtual grad panel with students from the class of 2023 coming back via Zoom to talk about realities of college life and how they got where they are, and advice for underclassmen. So that should be an exciting night just to hear their experiences, ask your questions, and get the truth from a class that's 2 years away from where you are. And then some junior jumpstart workshops are planned for February through May. We'll be hosting a family and student event in May to kind of get you going through the summer. So mark that date on your calendar. I am plugging my newsletters because I promise you those lots of care and time go into those. So everyone that reads those, I am like virtually high-fiving you and saying thank you. And then of course, encouraging juniors to sign up for a meeting with me. Those are my priority on my calendar, January through May. Love them. They're productive. They're exciting. They're fun. And you walk out knowing so much more, feeling more confident, feeling, again, active and empowered in the process. So I will turn it over.
All right, so juniors, I know you have a lot on your plates, and that's why, tonight is just the kickoff, and I'm reminding you once again, like, please have access to all of the different ways to stay connected in the CRC. I think 99% of the junior class has accepted my invitation for the Google Classroom and has been getting those posts, and the information that I push out through Google Classroom will just increase from here on out. The remind group for the CRC class of 2025, sometimes we push out messages that way. I know in the fall when we had college reps visit, sometimes we sent little reminders, and I know that emails can be hard to stay on top of, but we need you to read your emails. We also try and supplement it with some remind messages. And then hopefully you all know where you can find the CRC, but also know that it's open to any sophomore, junior who has questions, and we welcome drop-ins. And it's one of the best part of our jobs is getting to know students as they begin this process and work their way through this process. And Mrs. Carson's our CRC assistant, and between the two of us, there's almost always someone who's available to answer a quick question or to at least get you on our calendar to talk about things more. I do have appointments to meet with juniors that are around 30 minutes that will start in January. And you are definitely welcome to to invite one of your trusted adults or parents, whomever, to attend that meeting. Or it can just be the two of us, whatever works for you. And in the spring, I'll be meeting with juniors on an individual basis, but I will also be doing a lot of programming that's more small group based. And so two things that I wanted to highlight tonight was just, if you are a student whose parent did not graduate from a four-year school in the United States, you are considered first gen by the D128 definition, and we do have a college group that will be starting second semester. So please just be on the lookout for that, and know that a lot of students in the past have found it to be super helpful in just understanding this college process in a small group setting. And then in addition to the first gen college groups, we also are going to be offering some monthly workshops in the spring focused on a singular topic. And I every year. I know juniors are so stressed and busy with life outside of classes, homework, sports, everything. And it's really easy to just like table the college stuff or to table Mrs. Bolito's messages until maybe you feel like you're more caught up. But I think if you are diligent about reading the information and attending some of the info sessions that we offer during the school day, you will feel a lot less stressed and overwhelmed, and it will take away some of that mystery surrounding like this process and where do I even start. So just know that we are here for you and that you can stop by anytime, but then also, do your part and be on the lookout for more opportunities as the year goes on. Okay, so we have a few questions that we said we would talk about at the end here that were brought up. Um, let's see here. So one of the questions that we said we'd like to answer live is about the FAFSA. And it's especially um, a popular topic right now because it's being redone and is supposed to be released for this year's senior class by the end of December, but there's no set date. And so it's a revised FAFSA, and we've received a lot of updates and indications of some of the changes that were made, but neither Ms. Murphy or I or post-secondary counselors in the area like really can tell you definitively what the new FAFSA experience is going to be like. But just know, first you apply to colleges, and next year for the class of 2025, we are told that the FAFSA will once again, like it has been, it will be open on October 1st. And so there's kids that are doing applications September, October, November, December. And just roughly, I tell families that if you can get the FAFSA done before Thanksgiving, that's a great goal. Now, this year's senior class is not on that timeline. So if you have a senior, know that you're not behind. They have not released this new revised one yet. But you do have to apply to colleges either before or simultaneously, like when you're doing the FAFSA. And then what will happen is um, once your FAFSA has been processed and received by a college, they start to send out what's called a financial aid award letter with more details about loans and scholarships. And we just this past September hosted a like a financial aid info session with Jerry Sabritsky from Lake Forest College, and he does a really great job at going over it. So if you missed that, I would recommend checking out that recording, but know like our intention is to offer it again next year. We also offer FAFSA help at the school. So there's lots of supports out there. And there was another question about you know, scholarships and helping kids look for scholarships. And believe me, the seniors and juniors, like one of the first questions is like, how do I apply for scholarships? Because college is so expensive and cost is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And Ms. Murphy and I are both now probably going to be ramping up our communication to seniors on scholarships. So it kind of we start senior year in what I like to call like application season. And a lot of times scholarships for colleges are just submitting your application by their early action deadline. And then later on, like just now, we're starting to get more information about local scholarships. But all of that, like we try and parse out the information like in timely ways and in a way that's not going to be super overwhelming. But these are all like great questions and questions that are on everyone's mind.
I think that those questions circle back too to when we get back to as junior parents and juniors right now. Another factor in building effective lists is knowing a school or two is a school that is, again, likely I meet the criteria for merit awards. We can promise you that the most scholarship money out there is going to come from the institutions you're applying to. And so you do want to do that kind of research and evaluation of those auto awards or merit awards based on academic criteria, et cetera, in the process. And then additional things can be added on, but that just helps that fall season be even more productive for you. And then there was subsidized and unsubsidized loans. You qualify for those through the FAFSA. And the difference between the two loans is one, the subsidized loan you want to max out before unsubsidized. It's alpha order. Because a subsidized loan you are not paying interest on until you either leave the institution or graduate. So the money goes a little farther. So you qualify for those through the FAFSA. They do max out at the total is around, I think last year was around $5,500 with up to $3,500 being subsidized. So, the amounts go up second, third, fourth year. I think students can graduate with around $27,000 in that kind of federal loan debt based on those maxes. And again, that all circles back to those financial aid packages you'll get in February, March, April, once financial aid offices process your award letter. Becky, I'm going to dive in. Access to Naviance. Yes, Libertyville students have access to Naviance. We are very likely shifting college and career platforms in the next few months into next year. So Naviance is still alive, and it is a very useful tool. Students have access single sign-on in their Chromebooks, and I use it every day for searches and different tools. And we are optimistic that depending on the direction administration goes with next steps or the next platform, we will be informing students and families of that ahead of the end of the year. So those tools will all be in place.
Yeah, and for Vernon Hills, we use a software platform called Score. It's spelled SCOIR. And like Erin said, we anticipate as a district changing platforms. It's my understanding that Score is something that we should still have access to, and I will be teaching kids how to navigate around it as much as they need me to teach them. Usually they're pretty good at figuring out the computer stuff on their own. And there can be parent accounts. And so we're still going to be using Score for the rest of this year with juniors and parents. Sophomores, I know we might have some sophomores on this call, like you also have accounts and you can use it, but we just say all of that, like, don't get too invested in the software, but we will offer another software that is superior or comparable to what we already have between Naviance and Score. So.
I think there's one more that Ms. Carson is typing, but just quickly, as far as number of years of any specific subject, I think if I'm going to answer this really quickly, the more of the core classes you take, the more options you're creating for yourself. So again, I'll go back to English, math, social studies, science, world language. Having up to 4 years of each is only going to satisfy, every college out there. So when you say required or recommended, you have to decide how much you desire a spot perhaps on that campus. And then I like the add-on question that says, do you need to go with recommended or can they go with required, especially if X courses won't be part of their major? And that's a nuanced part of this in the sense of if I'm going to major in computer science, I may have fewer social studies because I'm taking 2 math classes into computer science and a data science, or, I'm doubling, tripling up on areas of interest. So those are questions to talk with your counselor and us about, even college reps. But it's certainly, if you can make sense of the choices you've made, you're probably doing pretty well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'll just echo, that is a perfect example of a question to go to your counselor with or stop by the CRC with because it is so nuanced and obviously like more core classes is better, but a lot of times we have to make hard decisions and decisions based on what's best for you, like and having a balanced life. And so know that that information is coming from the schools, but then also those are the type of questions that we get all the time, especially from juniors leading up to course registration. So I think we made it through all the Q&A. All right. Um, well, we have recorded this webinar, like I said at the beginning. It does take some time for us to get it processed and uploaded before we can share it out, but we will be sharing it out with all sophomores, juniors, and sophomore and junior families. And our contact info is right here. And you've probably received plenty of emails from us already this year. But if you ever need anything, get in touch with us. And we look forward to working with you all as now we've officially got this process underway for you juniors. Anything
Thanks
else,
everyone
Erin?
for joining us. Have a
Yeah.
great night. We look forward to seeing you at meetings.
Yes. Good night.